On the eve of the commemorations of the massacres of October 17, 1961, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, addressed a message to the nation on this occasion. His message says, "Dear citizens, tomorrow we commemorate the demonstrations of October 17, 1961, in order to remember the criminal colonial practices committed against the children of the Algerian people, which reflects one of the most hideous phases of abject massacres and crimes against humanity. The martyrs of this heinous massacre joined with honor and dignity their brothers who sacrificed their lives through the different successive popular revolts and during the War of National Liberation. Their sacrifices will remain a solid reference which testifies their attachment and commitment to their homeland, preserving the identity of the nation and consecrating its unity. In commemorating this crucial stage in the history of our revolution, we bow to the sacrifices of our martyrs, those who valiantly defended the honor of Algeria. This occasion gives me the opportunity to reaffirm our firm will to deal with the issues of history and memory without respite and without compromise, with the sense of responsibility that this task requires. Far from the domination of opportunistic colonial thinking on lobbies unable to free themselves from their chronic extremism. On this occasion, I would like to emphasize the importance we attach to our community abroad, which is an integral part of our nation, and I call in this context to strengthen the links in order to enable it to contribute to the efforts made to achieve the commitments we have taken before the people. I attach particular importance to taking care of all the concerns of our community and preserving its interests. Our diplomatic and consular representations must develop their working methods regarding interaction with the members of the community and adopt modern methods in consular management. I would not fail to commend their honorable patriotic stance, which they have demonstrated at every opportunity through their outpouring of solidarity in difficult times. I invite all the Algerians to join the ongoing process of construction where no room is left to despair. Algeria welcomes with open arms all its children from the community throughout the world. It values their abilities and skills. It invites them to contribute to the project of the rebirth of the nation, following the path of our valiant martyrs. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has decided to observe a minute of silence on October 17th each year at 11 a.m. throughout the country in memory of the martyrs or shuhada of the massacres of October 17th, 1961 in Paris, starting this Sunday. The President of the Republic, Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, will chair a meeting of the Council of Ministers on Sunday. It will be devoted to the examination and approval of a draft law on the fight against speculations and presentations on the organization of Jama' al-Jazair. The official start of the new academic year in the sectors of higher education and vocational training will also be discussed.
The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, sent his sincere condolences to the deceased family of Abdelhai bin Boulaid, who joined his father, the martyred hero Mustafa bin Boulaid, expressing his deep affection and sympathy, praying God Almighty to welcome him in his vast paradise. To God we belong, and to him we shall return.
A historic conference of the massacres of October 17, 1961 began on Saturday at the headquarters of the National People's Congress in the presence of the President of the National People's Assembly or Lower House of Parliament, Brahim Boughali, the President of the National Council for Human Rights, Bouzid Lazhari, and several war veterans who experienced these massacres in Paris, as well as teachers, historians, and civil society actors. The October 17th massacres claimed several Algerian lives in Paris due to the barbaric French colonial acts. The date of October 17th will forever mark the sacrifices of thousands of Algerians who demonstrated peacefully to denounce a discriminatory curfew. A wreath of flowers was laid in front of the stele commemorating the sacrifices of Algerians during the French colonialism. A moment of silence was observed in memory of the martyrs. A photo exhibition as well as historical documents were inaugurated on this occasion. On Sunday, Algeria will commemorate the massacres of October 17, 1961. It all started when Algerians waved the national flag, asking for their right to independence. France revealed that day one of the most despicable massacres of humanity against Algerian demonstrators who protested against the discriminatory curfew imposed by Maurice Papon. A bloody repression which showcases the hatred of the French colonizer towards Algerian repatriots who supported the revolution far away from home, as well as French people who supported the Algerian cause. The October 17, 1961 massacres are proof, among many others, which revealed the true face of a colonizer who used all forms of torture and abuse, but ultimately was defeated against the courage and determination of Algerians.
Prime Minister, Finance Minister Ayman bin Abdulrahman chaired a government meeting, during which members of the government studied 2 legal preliminary drafts and 2 executive decrees submitted by the Ministers of Justice and Public Works, as well as 5 proposals submitted by the Ministers of Interior, Telecommunications, Agriculture, Water Resources, and the Government Secretary General. The government studied a draft submitted by the Justice Minister on a preliminary draft of a law related to judicial organization, in addition to a presentation on the draft of a law amending and supplementing a matter related to judicial assistance. The government also listened to a presentation by the Public Works Minister on 2 executive decrees, including a public benefit declaration, before listening to a presentation by the Telecommunications Minister on the status of Internet communications and an action plan to improve it. The government also listened to a presentation by the Agriculture Minister on evaluating the role of the agency controlling agricultural products with wide consumption in the field of market control. On the other hand, the government heard a presentation by the Water Resources Minister on the extent of the progress of the National Emergency Program to contain the effects of water scarcity. Finally, and within the framework of processing projects and operating expenses, the government listened to 2 presentations related to the interpretation of operations entrusted to public institutions for the benefit of the Foreign Affairs and the Interior Ministries.
The Lieutenant General Said Chengriha, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, chaired a ceremony in honor of the members of the military selection who took part in the execution of a joint exercise on the fight against terrorism in Russia. The ceremony took place in the presence of the force commanders, the National Gendarmerie, and the commander of the 1st Military Region, as well as the Controller General of the Army, heads of departments, directors and heads of services of the National Defense Ministry and the General Staff of the National People's Army. During this ceremony, the Lieutenant General of the Army congratulated the selection for the laudable efforts they have provided with determination and loyalty, doing honor to themselves and to the People's National Army and Algeria. I present you on this happy occasion my warm congratulations for the immeasurable efforts that you have provided with determination and loyalty during your participation in this exercise by showing a high level of combat readiness and a great ability to master the use of the various weapons and techniques used in the fight against terrorism. The prestigious image you conveyed by this distinguished participation undoubtedly reflects the reputation enjoyed by the National People's Army at the international level, in particular through its leading experience in the field of the fight against terrorism, which has now become a world reference and an example. The Lieutenant General of the Army recalled that these satisfactory results are not by chance, but are rather the fruit of great sacrifices made by our valiant men during long years of struggle. The National People's Army accumulated a substantial capital of experience in the fight against terrorism and anti-subversion. During long years of struggle, sacrifices allowed the National People's Army and the security services officers to acquire exceptional experience in the fight against subversive terrorism. How opportune to me to invite you to meditate on the objective of our martyr sacrifices in order to continue the laborious efforts to preserve these operational gains made at a high price. The stability and security that our country enjoys today are achievements that came with difficulty and are the fruit of a global vision of the concept of security adopted by the High Command of the National Army in accordance with the judicious guidance of the President of the Republic, Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense. This vision guaranteed the Algerian people their right to live in a complete security and stability and confirmed to all the attachment of the National People's Army, worthy heir of the National Liberation Army, to assume its heavy and honorable responsibilities in accordance with the constitutional missions assigned to it. For his part, Major General Amara Thamnia, commander of the land forces, underlined that the objectives laid down and expected for the execution of this exercise were achieved thanks to the discipline and the seriousness which characterized our military component. This flagship step will undoubtedly serve as a motivation for our various formations within the National People's Army in order to make more laborious efforts and do their best to honorably present our armed forces and our country in the various activities of military cooperation. To conclude, I would like Mr. Lieutenant General to present the most sincere expressions of thanks and esteem for having presided over this ceremony, the actual symbolic and moral values of which are obviously important for the executives and the personnel of our armed forces following their positive participation in this joint tactical exercise. At the end, the Lieutenant General of the Army greeted and congratulated all the members of this component for their efforts.
The Assistant of German Foreign Affairs Minister Niels Annen is on a 3-day visit to Algeria as part of a regional tour. Mr. Annen held a working session with the Secretary General of Foreign Affairs Ministry, Shakib Rashid Qaid, which was devoted to the strengthening of bilateral cooperation and discussed regional issues of common interest.
The Sahrawi President, Brahim Ghali, chaired a press conference during which he addressed the developments of the Sahrawi issue, stressing that the appointment of the personal envoy of the UN Secretary General is not a goal in itself, but decolonization is the main objective, emphasizing that the Security Council should be aware of the new situation in the region following Morocco's breach of the ceasefire agreement. With the state of war and tension in the region, the UN Security Council resolution will not be useful unless it includes these elements: a clear mission for the personal envoy, which is the completion of the region's decolonization and organizing a referendum without delay, a fixed schedule for the application process, and finally a strong guarantee from the Security Council to encourage the two parties to engage in action. For his part, the representative of the Polisario Front in the United States of America expressed his satisfaction with the letter sent by 10 members of the U.S. Congress to the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken regarding the human rights situation in Western Sahara.